All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour, where the United Nations Security Council held an emergency meeting after the attack that took place at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. And this was, of course, to condemn the recent Russian attack at the Zaporizhzhia power plant, the nuclear power plant, which is said to be Europe's largest such facility. Now, this, of course, has raised an alarm of a dangerous new escalation in the ongoing conflict. The Western allies severely criticized Moscow on Friday over its shelling and seizure of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The American ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, slammed Russia for threatening the safety and the security of the civilians across Europe.
By the grace of God, the world narrowly averted a nuclear catastrophe last night. We all waited to exhale as we watched the horrific situation unfold in real time.
Now, the Russian envoy to the United Nations, Vasily Nebenzia, meanwhile has rebuffed the accusations that Russian forces had shelled the nuclear power plant. In his statement at the UNSC meeting, Vasily Nebenzia slammed the West for putting up a false narrative regarding the conflict at the Zaporizhzhia power plant.
Сегодняшнее заседание – очередная попытка киевских властей разжечь искусственную истерию по поводу происходящего на Украине. А им подпевает в этом их западные покровители. Вот и сегодня мы слышали очередную ложь о том, что российские войска атаковали Запорожскую атомную электростанцию. Это все часть беспрецедентной кампании лжи и дезинформации против России.
The Ukrainian envoy to the United Nations has also criticized Russia for shelling and seizing the power plant. He's also accused Moscow of peddling lies at the United Nations Security Council.
Yesterday, they committed an act of nuclear terrorism while shelling and seizing the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in the town of Energodar. The lies by the permanent representative of Russia are not surprising. He may not be properly informed by his capital, and we saw it on many occasions in the Security Council.
India, meanwhile, on Friday has called for ensuring the safety and the security of the atomic facilities in Ukraine. India's permanent representative to the United Nations, T.S. Tirumurti, said that it is regrettable that the situation in Ukraine had worsened since the last meeting, and that the cessation of violence is absolutely essential to end the conflict.
It is regrettable that the situation in Ukraine has worsened further since the Council last convened on this matter. An immediate cessation of violence and end to all hostilities are essential. We continue to carefully follow the developments regarding the safety and security of Ukraine's nuclear power reactors and facilities. India attaches the highest importance to ensuring safety and security of nuclear facilities, as any accident involving the nuclear facilities may have severe consequences for public health and the environment.
Now, the plant, of course, came under heavy shelling in the early hours of Friday, which led to a fire breaking out in a building in the outside perimeter of the plant. Now, Ukraine's State Emergency Services later said that the fire had been extinguished. The United Nations nuclear watchdog, meanwhile, has also confirmed that there has been no release of radioactive material so far from the plant. Now, WION's correspondent Susan Tehrani, who's presently in New York and has been tracking the developments very closely for us from the United Nations, has sent us this report on the Ukrainian crisis in terms of how the UNSC has been dealing it. Listen in.
As the fighting in Ukraine continued, the message coming out of Washington at the end of the week was warnings and diplomacy. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby called on Russia to be more responsible regarding the targets it chooses in Ukraine, warning against the overnight attack on the nuclear power plant, saying that it could have easily visited a lot more damage and destruction on Ukraine and its neighbors, including Russia. Kirby said, quote, "We continue to call on Russia to stop the invasion, period, but certainly short of that, to be more mindful of their obligations under international law." Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden spoke with his Polish counterpart on Friday. The two sides, according to the White House, reaffirmed their commitment to NATO's alliance and also their commitment to Ukraine, including urgent humanitarian assistance. Poland is hosting 9,000 U.S. troops, including 4,700 service members who were deployed to the country in recent weeks. The White House also announced on Friday that Vice President Kamala Harris will be visiting Poland and Romania between March 9th and 11th. According to the White House, her visit will demonstrate the strength and unity of the NATO alliance and U.S. support for NATO's eastern flank allies in the face of Russia's aggression. It will also highlight our collective efforts to support the people of Ukraine. However, she's also expected to discuss what is now being called a refugee crisis in Europe, as the United Nations estimates some 1.2 million Ukrainians have fled the country so far since the Russian invasion. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.